Okay, so welcome everybody to the Unity Circle today. And Ritza Elizabeth is our host, and she came to me, I don't know, it was about 3 weeks ago. Was it about 3 weeks ago that she said, "Oh, I've got all these ideas. I'd love to come in." And so she came in and we called it, what did we call it? Something magic. What is this called?
Everyday magic.
Everyday
Everyday magic.
magic.
Oh yeah.
And because she couldn't come up with like a title because she had so many different topics that she wanted to talk about. So we said, okay, let's go. So today is the first one. And I think what's going to happen with Ritza is this might be like an ongoing once a month thing where she's going to come in and talk about it. And because she's got so much to talk about. So today she's going to focus on a couple of things. And I'm just going to let you take it over, Ritza.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Nice to see everybody. I appreciate you. My name is Ritza Elizabeth, and you might see on the screen Coyote Heart. It's part of the art that I do. And when I was first setting it up, that's what I went by. So what I'd like to offer is even an interactive time. There's not that many of us, if that should happen. I'm going to speak a little bit to try to and set up what I'm meaning to get to. This time was meant really more like a 101. It's you're helping me just as much as I would like to lend some suggestions to each of you. And it is about everyday magic, how to use it, how it's in our life. And I will just be bringing up some topics, some elements that support it. And then I'll have some fun little exchanges or experiments to share. And then I'd like to leave you with some, if you want, of your own homework to do or just to be aware of. And then later via Robin, there's like a handout that I did. And certainly it's not an all-inclusive handout, but it's a springboard if you're interested to take a look at some names or things and explore when or if you so desire. So everyday magic, what is it? I mean, when we say the word magic, it implies a sleight of hand or maybe some witchery or bringing the unseen to the seen, magic. And whatever I talk about today is not about witchery or anything demonic or anything dark. It is about light, and it is about how we are, in fact, magic. We can probably universally say that somehow we know that a long time ago, the Earth's first peoples were more in tune with what seemed to be invisible, what seemed to be ruling or helping them have things happen in their lives. And there's so much world history that could be debatable, but let's kind of first run with that till about 1600s, when Sir Isaac Newton started to say, oh no, there's nothing invisible. If I hit you, there's a reaction. This is the seen world. What we see is real. And then let's skip to now the beginning of the 1900s. Scientists were coming up and saying, no, wait a minute. There is something in our lives. There's a force that we can't express. And what they started to do at that turn of the century was take experiments they'd done before, and they asked another question, so they were getting different answers, and they found that there was something else. And it was like Max Planck, he was the father of quantum physics, and he started to say there's an invisible force that seems to be underlying and ruling all things. So today, a lot of us in this group, we've probably heard things like, hey, your vibe's not high, or you're not vibing the right way, or your energy is low, something like that. Well, that's because all things vibrate, from us and animals to plants and trees, and even things that are made, a chair. If we go under a microscope, you could actually see that the makeup or the cells or the pieces that are being observed are slightly moving. So everything on this planet vibrates. which is interesting. Therefore, if everything vibrates, everything has a frequency. So just to set up this other part before we get to even cooler things, what you're going to have is, if there are particles become waves. We don't always see these things. Waves are measured, they're a frequency, and we see them or hear them or feel them, depending upon that speed, the fastness or slowness. And some of you may actually see and hear things without actually seeing anything. You may see things that some of us can't. Some people who are psychic or clairaudient, they hear things, but nothing seems to be there. So everything has this vibration and is energy. And they actually have machines now that measure all this, and they do know from experiments that the human energy field goes further than 50 miles out. You've probably heard, oh, if looks could kill, or I felt her energy. Our own energy vibrates out of our body up to, and they stopped measuring at a 50-degree radius. So that's pretty cool. We also have things that happen in our life. They happen on purpose or by default, but we want to blame other people. We forget then we are energy. We have power, but we're not taught this on a regular basis, and we forget. We kind of go back into the regular mainstream support each other, like, oh yes, I know you're hurt. Oh yes, I know they did something bad. But we forget, because we're energy, we have attracting power. We are like our own little radio stations. And so how we get what we get is that we're vibing a certain way. And when we vibe a certain way, that other thing that's a match comes to us. Here's kind of a cool example. You've probably all heard of like an opera singer breaking a glass. Well, the glass, or the goblet, it has its own energy, so it has its own frequency. And depending on how it's made, vibrates at that frequency.
I often worried about when I'm working with my crystal.
Yeah.
I often think to myself, because sometimes the energy gets like really strong, and I often worry, like, is my crystal going to explode?
Well, you could probably have it break off a little bit. So here's what would happen then with that. Your energy would have to match that exact energy. And if it probably doesn't have any hollow spots to it, I don't think so. Because the thing about the glass of the goblet, it has a hollowness. And when the opera singer is singing and they happen to align at that particular note, that particular frequency, that opera singer's frequency is hitting the glass so it shakes. Mm-hmm. If that frequency gets louder, then it will smash. So your frequency with the crystal would have to match it and get louder. Mm-hmm. Not different, not necessarily higher or lower, just louder. And how things happen faster or sooner in our lives. So we have a trajectory, we have a path we're going on, and we'd really like that path. But we may be just moving at a speed that brings us there slower, and it to us, because we become a magnet when we're aligned. Now, depending upon if you start building more speed because of your focus and intention, that thing will come in faster. And it really takes a little bit of awareness and practice. You shouldn't be like necessarily focusing it on, like so strong that you want this thing. It's really a balance of trust, certainty, faith, because you can't, most of us, see that thing that we really want. We can feel it, which is important. We can feel it and we can draw it in, because our feelings, our emotions play a part. Because again, remember I said the human energy field can be measured, your emotions can be measured at least in a 50-mile radius. So your emotions are energy in motion. You are vibing that vibe. We think so many thoughts a day, which is okay, we can't help it. You wouldn't want your 42,000 thoughts to manifest like that, because you'd end up with tractors and trailers and clothes and your money, and everyone wants the money, right? But you'd have so much, it would be like all your garage and your house is all stored up.
Can you imagine if you were thinking about an elephant? All of a sudden, the elephant formed in front of you.
Good point. Because here's the thing. We get some things we don't want. And we're just, like I said, energy sponges. So to make that point, the thoughts we think and the words we say are constantly creating our present, our futures, which become our present. So it's kind of like being mindful. If you keep saying a thing over and over again, it is going to be your experience. Now, for some reason in the human condition, we get more like, I can't win the lottery. I play the lottery. I always don't win the lottery. I play the lottery. Well, I have bad luck. Well, I never win the lottery. Well, sometimes I win the lottery. Yeah, I win like $1. Like it goes like that over and over again. Well, notice how you really don't win. You don't, I mean, and if you did, that would be a moment when you were truly aligned and didn't talk against yourself. Because this vibration that happens hears what you want or acts on what you want, whether it's no, 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 or yes, yes, yes. Because no, no, no is like, I'm getting all these no's, and yes, 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 I'm getting all these yeses. And it's not so much that you have to think about this every day, but there's a quality in the vibration of the self that when you look at yourself and say, I feel good, notice how you do feel good or feel better. It's not always an easy practice in that sense when you feel sick, because the better it gets, the better it gets, and the worse it gets, the worse it gets. Again, the trajectory and the momentum, the track that you're on and the speed. But here's what's possible. Nothing that you've said or done in the past or a minute ago that you didn't want has to happen. What is involved is just a slight little practice of evolution of being focused on what you would like to have happen. Okay. And I'm going to get that to give even more examples because I think that will be fun. So here we are with frequency and energy and vibration and the match of us coming together. How can I put this? What makes it happen even when we don't want it? Okay, did you want to say something? So what happens is there's a little overlag. Just when you're switching into like, oh, I'm always positive, I'm usually positive, I'm positive, or you're practicing getting more positive, there's that little bit of, I don't know what you call it, drag time from when you were being gossipy or talking about or whatever, that now it's going into your, the new place you want to go. And then I would offer something like saying, well, I would really like this to happen. Oh, that can't happen, Robin. But then you would say, no, wait a minute. Wouldn't it be nice? That would be really great if that happened. And notice how that makes you feel. That makes you feel really good. That makes you feel like, well, it's probably possible. Because Ritza was telling me, she did this research and there's this energy that's felt, even though we can't see it, and stuff starts to happen. So why don't I want to just practice this other range of emotions or energy? Now, granted, we've all had a history. Some things are easier to believe than others. But if we get what we get on purpose or by default, and it's proven by different experiences and also by people saying things over and over again, why not try that? So I wanted to bring in some things about, like, you can't see it, but it's happening. So I want to bring in some fun things, and I'm bringing 3 different types of experiments in. So just bear with me, because one might fall all over the place. One was a marble experiment, which you could do with kids. And so it actually is part of a different experiment in science, but I'm just going to put my screen down a little bit and they roll on the floor. It's all right. So I have some marbles and they're sitting on a ruler and there's a groove. So I'm just gonna pull this down so you can kind of see, hopefully, the marbles. And
Scooch it the
Maybe
other
we
way,
need to
please.
put it a little bit more closer to
Towards you. There you go.
yeah, okay. So I'm gonna take a marble and I'm gonna roll it into those. Oh, and they did the wrong thing because my table is off. They did it in the other direction where so that's an experiment gone bad, which I knew doing live, it would be, you know, whatever.
What's it supposed to do?
So when you have marbles perfectly in a straight line, and you can, that's how you can tell your table or your house is, you know, crooked or straight, right? So when the marbles are in a straight line, it does have to do with like a trajectory and momentum. But whenever you would send a marble into other marbles, one marble will move forward. If you had a group of marbles and you send two marbles into the group of marbles, two marbles would move forward. Now, while that is another kind of experiment as well, what I wanted to show is like you can't see the string that pulls the marbles. You can't see the energy, but it's there. So it's there. The other experiment I wanted to do, which is, I probably didn't do it for as long, but you may have heard about Dr. Emoto. Does anybody know who Dr. Emoto is?
Yes.
Okay, so you know about the water experiment. So the earth is probably, I think, at least 70% water, and we are 70% water, at least. Therefore, for us folks who have a hard time drinking water, it would behoove us to drink a little more water. Dr. Emoto basically proved that water has an intelligence on its own, and that what it will do is become what you label it. So if we are screaming and yelling at people or ourselves, the water in our body is actually becoming those molecules of hate or anger or frustration or discomfort. So these are things that if we would talk to each other more about, it would start to become more of a daily practice, so easily understood that we wouldn't spend the time in the grocery store or anywhere going, I wish they'd hurry up, they're so slow. I mean, really, get a life. You wouldn't talk to yourselves like that. You would say, wow, my reaction might be, but I'm going to say, I can't know what's going on, so I'm going to think something else that is happy, get to a little happy place. So I did a Dr. Emoto experiment, and I have a jar that's labeled nothing. And I can tell you what it looks like if you can't see, I'll show it to you. I have a jar that's labeled love, and I have a jar that's labeled hate. And what I did with the jars, which were hard to find canning jars around here, I really wanted them to say nothing on them, but they said the name of the company. So I put in equal amounts of rice and equal amounts of water, and it was all spring water. Now, some people do this experiment for more like 2 weeks to see what will happen. I really just had the week because I was thinking, was I going to do this and whatever, but I thought it'd be cool just to show you what I did. I left the jar that's unlabeled that'll show you. I didn't look at it. I think if I looked at it, it was just to bring it closer to me today, but I didn't look at it for a week. The other one that I labeled love was easy to do because I could sing into it. I could feel good thoughts. I could send, like for me, clouds, horses, kitties, puppies. I could sing songs, and that was fine. And then for the same amount of time, I would go to this hate jar and I would hate on it. And I think the first day I did it was the easiest because I was really wanting the experiment to work. And over the period of time, it wasn't so hard to do hate, but it was more like I was making icky sounds because I really didn't want the vibration of hate near me. But I focused on sending not nice messages to it as best I could. And so what I want to do, since they've all been in the same room, they were from either equal distance apart. I'm bringing them out for the first time to the light of day, and I'm just going to show you what I see based on the energy that I sent this water in these jars. And again, this is to prove the point of if our thoughts and our words have power, and if we're 70% water, what's going on? How are we complimenting ourselves, or how are we cursing ourselves? What are we sending out, and what's coming back to us? So here we go. But everything is just right near me. So I don't know.
This is interesting. It's different. This is
Yeah, I'm loving it.
So this is the jar that I didn't label anything. And
It looks like
to the
milk.
light, huh?
It looks a little bit like milk.
The rice. So there's bubbles in the water, a little bit of bubbly. It looks either cream colored, but I would say there's tiny little like fish bubbles around it. And the rice expanded a little bit. It's a little bit on the clear side, but again, I left it alone and I didn't talk to it. I didn't do anything. There's not as much, there's some condensation, but not a lot. I didn't give it much attention. I just let it be. And we'll just see what a loved one looks like. The loved one is a different color. Whoops, the loved one is a different color. It's not as cream colored, I think, is the unattentioned one. The unattentioned one looks a little darker, I think, for me.
Does?
Yeah, it
Does.
does.
And there is bubbles, but there's sort of like islands of bubbles in here. And they're not so much around the edge like the other one. These are more like they were coming together to form like these floating islands on the top. There is a little bit more, I don't know, like water condensation everywhere. That's what I labeled it. I even wondered in my experiment if I should have probably put it lower, but again, everything had the same amount of water in the same room. And this is the first time I'm really, like I purposely tried not at all to look at them after I had my time with them. So this one looks clearer than the other one. And now this is the hate jar, and it's a little bit hard to tell there. I think, I'm trying to see if it's more milky than the other one. I would say it's even a slightly different color than the non one, although this one looks more cream.
It looks more gray.
This one looks more gray, thank you.
Yeah, it looks like a bluish gray.
Yep.
Well, you can tell you was hating on that thing.
I changed color. So they all are different. There's not as many, there's definitely almost zero bubbles around the end, and there's a few bubbles in the inside, but its color looks different than, I mean, it's probably a little hard to tell, but it's overall darker than this one, than the love one. And now, depending on how, the more frequency I might have paid attention to them, or maybe less water, whatever. There's people that have done this experiment for 2 weeks and they have mold or different things growing in them. But I did it to kind of have a way to show you about Dr. Emoto's experiments. And he actually, you can find his books. And if you just want to see his images online, they're really beautiful. How he has all the water crystals that they changed to however he labeled.
Yeah, I wonder, how did he do that? Did he put them into like the freezer or something when?
So what he did initially was he was trying to cure cancer.
Mhm.
And I forget what led him to have this inspiration, but he took a gallon of water or water from the Fujiyama Dam, and he looked at it on a slide under a microscope. And again, his aim was to cure cancer, but there was a particular incident that led him to think this idea. So then what he decided to do was take the water and have one in like a petri dish, put some water in a dish and leave it alone. But then he took other dishes and he labeled them like love and hate or anger. He just labeled them different and he let them stand for 24 hours. And then when he would take a droplet of water, and they all came from the same dam and the same container, but he had used different other little dishes. And he labeled them, he let it stand 24 hours. He noticed when he took some of the water on a dropper and put it on a slide under a microscope, that each water molecule was different than the other. And they all came from that first batch, that first water batch. And so he expounded on that experiment. But from it, and he might have, to get them like freeze like that, he might have had to do that. I don't recall. I read this a long time ago,
Yeah,
so I
because
don't.
thought they look like they're frozen. I often wondered, did he put them in the freezer and then they came up with the pictures?
Guys, this is the book.
Oh, you've got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Love thyself. Thank you.
Yeah, and can you show us some pictures of the different
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's why I went to get it for. I'll be
Yeah.
right back. I mean, as soon as I'll keep talking and I'll look
Oh,
up.
thank you so much. So
Oh wait, here you go.
his work became
This is one where he sent love and when he sent hateful words too.
right. See how beautiful the love is that it crystallized. So he became, I think, more noticed, his work, through which I list in my handout, through a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know, which was very controversial, at least in the New England area. There were people that actually, that when that movie came out, there were people that had meetings about this movie, What the Bleep Do We Know, because it was like a movie documentary. There was nothing and everything like this before. And it was sort of followed a character, but then as it interrupted her story, there would be these people would come in and comment about actions and behaviors and mindsets to complement the movie. And at one point, Dr. Emoto's work is shown because there's a character leading a tour, and the main character is detained from getting on a train, and she hears this particular tour guide speaking, and then showing all the results of his experiment. I actually knew of people who knew him. I did not get to meet him, and I think at that time he had already passed away, but he had known some people in Sedona where I was, and I actually bumped up against these people, and they were acquaintances or friends of his. So he had done this magnificent work, and it really was to show us the thoughts we think and the words we say are constantly creating our reality. And in fact, they have quite a big significance in what happens with our bodies, or how we complement the times that we're going through with our own bodies, the ease, the dis-ease. And it's not always fair sounding to say when you've got someone who's really sick, someone who's really challenged, someone who's totally of a different belief. So again, in thought, you can wish all these people well. And if we're willing to adopt some practices that ultimately are proven that they work, we might see a significant improvement in every area of our life. It's just, again, what airtime are you giving to? I don't know if I want to be really mean. So those people over there who believe that, I want to blame them for their practices. And they're the ones who have really been doing this all throughout the years. And I want to say X, Y, and Z and demonstrate my energy toward them. But the fact is, I'm also putting it back on myself, because as I'm getting angry, upset, and disturbed by what they have done, I'm not lending to the own energy and cells in my body with their infinite wisdom. I'm actually causing some disruption to that. There's another gentleman he's in the UK, and his camp.
If you can see it.
Free
But look at
Yeah,
that.
you can.
Is it backwards? It's probably not right. But
No, it's right.
they literally have they made a deck. There's a base on the work of Masaru Emoto. It's a 4-year water crystal card. So there's like a whole deck about with
And have you guys heard of the song Imagine? John Lennon.
Yes.
This song was being sung, and this is what formed. So I mean, he has all throughout the book, all different religions, all different ways of things, different energies that he.
What's the name of that book, Bonnie? Is it The Hidden Messages in Water? Is that what it's called?
No, the Hidden Messages in Water. Yeah. And
so, and when he does highlight like Christianity, Judaism, Islam, when he does talk about show the different religions, what the water turned, they all have a beautiful, luminous
glow. Like this is harmony. Yeah. This is all religion. It's all glow. And then yeah, they all have a different they have a different
I wonder
they're
if
like,
you put the Vatican in, what would be with would that come out nice or not? Because like some people talk about the Vatican and they talk about how like it's not really. I had a friend that she went to the Vatican thinking it was going to be like a really big, huge spiritual experience, and all she saw was horrible, horrible, dark energy when she got there. She said it made her feel
well,
almost,
that wouldn't, I wouldn't blame the whole group on that,
yeah.
because it could be just the people that
Yeah,
was in
no, she was
charge
just
of the
saying
group
when
she
she
was
went
at.
to visit the Vatican, when she went to
So
the
this
building.
is the sun goddess, but look, it's golden. The sun goddess. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. But yeah,
Well,
this says messages from the water #3, so there must be 2 other books.
so while you just brought up the Vatican, and when I was talking to the ladies, like Robin and Bonnie briefly, so there was a doctor that rediscovered there are 9, well, there's actually really more, but he rediscovered the solfeggio frequencies. The solfeggio frequencies are frequencies known to help with healing. You can find some examples on YouTube. There are also things called binaural beats. There's, I think gamma waves might be available. There's Healy, which is new to me. And there's Rife frequencies. And so some of you may know these frequencies or these sounds already. The frequencies that are solfeggio were based on a scale, and at the time, Latin notes. And you know, I'm recalling that the cata, is it the cata, I can't say their name. They were castrated. They were young men or boys who basically were sold into, or families volunteered them into monastic era. So first of all, they would receive money, they would be taken care of, but their voices were raised higher because of being castrated, and they became these beautiful voices that would you know, sing about God and nature and harmony. And so these frequencies had a lot of healing powers. And I'm mostly knowing it like, I think middle and high middle ages, but they came earlier. And I believe the timeline is around the end of the 400s, 500s, and up to 1400s. I could be wrong on the timeline. But in that timeline, there was these beautiful voices that were saluting God and the idea of the universe and the greatness. However, at some point in our history, the Vatican knew about this, and they suppressed these frequencies because there was wisdom and healing and power. So then there was a doctor that emerged that helped these frequencies come back, and these would have been, you know, scientists, musicians, theologians. That this itself is a whole topic to follow, and then, you know, bring out and talk to people about. But you can hear these frequencies, and when, you know, some are like 528 hertz, that frequency is considered a God frequency, a love frequency. And 432 is considered like a God frequency. And you may even be well aware of Schumann's resonance. Schumann's resonance came up with a measurement of tonality for the earth, which for a long time was 7.83, or some people say 8, and which seemed like the letter C. And our brains are 7.83. However, with a lot of things going on in the world, and a lot of way showers and light workers, prayers and accolades to the rising of Gaia, they're now showing almost every day that the Schumann's resonance is changing and getting bigger. So I'm hopeful that that lends to us rising in our thoughts, words, and deeds for us to become lighter beings. And again, see, that is a whole nother topic.
And
Yeah.
because I'm sitting here with Bonnie, or with Nora, and Nora and we both have been studying. Well, she studied more than I have through, it's called Transference Healing. Nora, the Transference Healing teacher and practitioner. But in the book, the channeling that Alexis Cartwright brought through, there is talk about the tone that the earth itself It was like in the frequency, like it started at an F, I think, and then it went to F sharp, and now when it goes into the new golden age, it's going to be G.
I don't know about that part, so you know.
Yeah, and it
than I
has
do.
something to do with the frequency of the. So I'm finding this interesting because like
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
comforting.
What I said was, and it
What,
wasn't
Nora?
exact, it was closer to C sharp at that 7.83, but you
Yeah,
know,
but when I was reading the book, it said something like it went to make F sharp or something. It was A C. There was different. I can't remember the notes off the top of my head, but there was different notes to make up that F sharp, and I think C was in there.
so I mean, this is all wisdom that we're all engaging in and talking about. This is a lot of earth history, wisdom, holy books, power that we were lied to. So
Well, yeah.
I'm bringing as much honest information that I've been knowing and can find, and so much is changing really fast that would take like each one of us can grab on to some part of the subject and then deliver it, because
Just run
it's just
with it.
changing so quickly. And of course, there are people still fighting to suppress, and then the many layers of other things going on
And you
the
were saying
planet.
something to me before we started, something about that they stopped allowing the toning to be going on in the churches for like.
Yes. Yeah, because that I don't recall any life at lower middle ages, but myself in a reincarnation. But this is the interesting thing that is in the back of my head. There was so much suppressed knowledge from even long ago. Keep the peasants down, give them only so much religion in our dose and the way we want. Because nobility, they had the education. Women didn't always have the education. Some of the nuns did, and depending on the mindset of that cluster and or her background, if she even was already related to nobility. So there's been so much suppressed energy and information. But yeah, when I was reading, because I wanted to even understand, I've just accepted these different frequencies that exist because I've tried different ones and they make me feel good. But I wanted to go back and said, well, how did they know? But people knew. They had different math then. In fact, I don't want to segue too much, but in the 1939, 1945, between there, that's when the scale was changed. The scale was always set to 432 hertz. I think C on the piano or C on whatever music you play, whatever music you do on an instrument. But Hitler and those type of people, they knew that 440 created a dissonance sound toward the body, in the body. It created inharmony or disharmony. So then they changed what they toned their instruments to. And so nothing is an accident. There's been a lot of planning. So there's some truth to what we're saying or what I'm delivering. And then there's this other partnership of other secret information. And it's very vast. So it would really entail me going back to read a whole lot more to be even a whole lot more accurate. But again, this was to me like a 101 talk, just to bring everything to the surface and bring all these bits of little truths as to how it is we get what we get. Because we are energies. In other words, Einstein said, he didn't agree with Max Planck on everything, but Einstein said, and this is really, really, if you've ever been to a church or a synagogue or a place of worship, and they said, oh, you're a divine being in a human body, divine being in a human body. A long time ago, Einstein said, concerning matter, we were wrong. Concerning matter, anything you can see, right? That's already in solid. Concerning matter, we were wrong. There's only energy as to be so lowered, as to be perceived. There is no matter. And this would actually go right along with 5D, 6D, all the galactic peoples of a different density. Well, if they're a different density, you have to again be the frequency and alignment to see them. You might hear them. Some people still hear them.
Just as like they say when the boats were coming in, when they found America, the Indians didn't really see them because they didn't know what a boat was. It wasn't in their frequency. They had no words or no English for it.
Right.
They didn't really see them as they were coming up onto their property, onto their lands. They didn't until it was, too late.
And I
Well,
think that could be why all of a sudden people's frequencies are changing. And so maybe that's why we are starting to see beings from different realms now. More people are, because our frequency is changing. So everything around us is changing. We're getting glimpses of what has been there all this time, but we just weren't able to see it because we weren't vibrating at the same speed.
Yeah, I just posted something that said we humans only see it's only like 10% of what's really out there. Imagine that. What's around us? What is it we're not seeing?
I also thank you. All you ladies are bringing up this thing that we've probably all had an experience with. I'm looking for my keys. I know they were right there. I'm looking for my glasses. I know they were right there. Now, I'm not talking about when we do this, because sometimes we do that. Oh. But like when we're looking for our keys and we know they're in the purse, and your purse is only so big, they're in there, and you're looking everywhere, and then you find them. You've even sometimes dumped out your purse and you see no keys, and then you go look later and then there's keys, and you know at that moment you weren't two people then. But I think that we actually step out sometimes of
timeline
reality and we come right back in. So I think that we've been doing that, but sometimes it's such in such an experience or at such a rate that we don't hook up the dots in a sense. Or what will go is, well, I'm getting old, I'm getting crazy, so I was thinking this thing, and it happened to me.
That just happened to me the other day. I was sitting here, Bonnie was listening. I was doing some cards, because I always pull cards before I do a Unity Circle, or I always pull to see what we need to talk about, or anything, what's going to come up or whatever. And so I pulled 3 cards, and then I set the deck upside down, and I just set it next to on my hand there. And then I was looking up something, and I moved a book over, and then I moved this over here, and I looked down and I said, oh my God, a card literally picked itself and flipped itself over and was in my card spread, and I didn't do it. And there was no way it could have fallen because it was they were in a different direction. I thought, oh my God, something just happened? Did I just go in between some timelines or something? And in one timeline I actually pulled the card, and in the one it was really weird.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, did you want to say something, Bonnie?
Well, I mean, because sometimes timelines are so close together that they run parallel, and then when they intersect, it's not always the same thing. You might not have the same things in your room, or it's not exact, because you make different decisions, you make different choices, or in this timeline you may have moved it over here, in this timeline you never moved it. So, and then when they intersect, you're like, oh my gosh, where's it at? Or how'd that get here? And so it's just really, really crazy, because I do Akashic record reads and I work with timelines. It's really amazing how those work,
Also, in terms of, to me, again, this is all energy frequency, all of how it comes into our everyday magic, everything that you're mentioning. And the things we're talking about it's people forget that whether you want to call it God, Allah, your Uncle Fred, invisible forces,
Bob's your uncle.
or Uncle Eddie, whatever you had, your invisible 100% pure light friends, spirituality, that has not something that just emerged on a particular timeline. It always was. It was always part of our time here on this, whether it's a round marble or whether it's a flat marble. We're going to find out, but it's always was. It is a part of our heritage and our power, and a power that we've denied ourselves because we were taught by well-meaning people how to fill in and only expand or be in a certain power under certain conditions, and not to get too big, not to get too famous, not to get too whatever, because we all had to play our part at a particular level. And that there's some people that rose up, and we now know, of course, some rose up rather ethically and some haven't, because there's always been a shining light for somebody somewhere. But you're also bringing up the point that I want to just probably bring this in, and you might have all done this before, but this is where it really can help us. I know when I feel sad, I try to remember this particular experiment. And if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. I'll do it. And it might take a moment for it to start to happen for you, but trust that it's there. So if you want to bring, my marbles are running. The house is crooked. Okay, if you come see me, you might roll out of bed. So if you want to put your hands together, you can put them together. I like to rub, mine are cold, so I'm going to rub them a little bit. You don't have to rub them. Sometimes you can do this with your hands just together. I don't even have a big intent all the time. I just do it when I just quiet myself for a moment. It might be 30 seconds or less. And what I want to do is I want to now feel the energy that's around me. And so if you're open to it, you can start to feel that there's something between your hands. And it wants to, it's almost like you're holding a beach ball, but it's not, there's nothing there.
I used to do this in the steam room. I would go like this, and I felt like you're just like.
I'll just send you all some energy.
Thank you. So you rub your hands together or not, keep them together, and then slowly take them apart from each other. And then let them stay there. And you can just test a little bit. You can, like, I really feel my hands can stay up in the air. I feel like it wants to get bigger. The energy wants to get bigger. I can feel as if it's almost like wind, but there's no wind here. Now I'm going to go against it. I'm just going to go through it. I can feel it. So you can start it with your hands together and just be like this and just, have it just build. And you might be surprised. Now, sometimes in the beginning, you might not just feel anything. You think, oh, this is stupid. What was she saying? She's dumb.
Yeah, everybody does this in Reiki 1.
But you can feel, so you can feel the energy that is you around you. And it just reminds me that, this is cool and I can get stuff and I can have stuff, and that I got to share that with you. So I can keep.
So when do you do this? You do this whenever you're not feeling the best or something? You just
Well,
kind of listen.
I just brought it in as an energy exercise that you could try in the quiet of your own area. We could do it on a bus, but I mean, people might look at you. So I would, I do it. Again, I intended it for this time, but I've done it when I have felt I'm I don't want to keep perpetuating. So part of my story is I'm living with some pain and I don't like it. And I would just do different exercises. And sometimes prior to doing the meditation or in doing some work or thinking differently on myself, I would do this exercise to remind myself that I'm not a victim of my condition and I'm not a victim of my current state of living. I am a power in my world. And if I only will have that practice every day of saying things to bring that magic, me as the magic in my world, I will see those results. And I'll just share a couple more things with you because we're getting near the end and that was so much glad for you to have me. I actually, for myself, I've been doing all kinds of research, and I decided to buy these energy healing code cards. And in the healing code cards someone channeled someone from the Palladian area, another Palladian, and gave him these healing codes that actually, when you look at them, they vibrate. And they have been helping me with my back and some pain and like that. They're not considered.
Do you have the deck? Can you show it?
Yeah, I want to show you that before I move on to the last suggestion.
Okay.
These sound an awful lot like you have ruin. What are those stones you have there, Nora? Alchemy stones or something you have?
Oh, the alchemy stones, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. It doesn't matter. So like even in the handout that I sent to Robin, if you want to take a look at it, you can make a paper airplane out of it. You can put it in with all your other tools.
She could probably just post it on in the comments.
No, but I was
and then you
looking
could
at
get
it
it from
and I
there.
had to download it, and it's a lot of pages, and so I don't
It's
know
like 7,
how
yeah.
I can actually put out onto the.
Well, if people want to send their email, if they're curious, they could you send it to them? Like, does it have to be something I know if you want it or not? It's free. And it's just different thoughts that were covered today, or some people, and there's so many, you probably have your own heroes. So via my different explorations, I found this guy named Brad Johnson, and Brad Johnson set out to write a book. And then Brad Johnson wanted to know more about, because he was going to do a book on people who channel and people who are psychic, but it led him to read a book on being psychic, which he read in a weekend. And then he decided to do some of the practice, which in 3 to 6 months, he was getting information. And by the end of 6 months, he channeled a person, his future self, or a future self, that said, I am Adronis. And they've been having a conversation since either 2008 or 2012, not 20 years. He's a newer, but it's this is the these are healing code cards. This one is, I guess, a physical deck.
We'll hold it up a little bit more so we can see the.
Backwards, right? So like that.
All right.
But it's very thin. They're like probably 3 inches by 5 inches. You can actually go to his site and you can get 11 cards for free that are not in any deck. They're just free. And if you print them out, the instructions are put them on photo paper, that as if you were doing a photograph, and that you make them a smaller size. I did mine at 4 inches by 6 inches because that's what he first told me. But obviously these are not 4 by 6 inches. They're probably more like 3 by 5. And so they have on these, they have enhancers. And then there are, I don't know if you can, like that. And there are all these different symbols. They mean different things. And when you start looking at them, they actually move and change. They vibrate.
Geometry, there's platonic solids inside of them.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
And you only need to use them for 60 seconds. You don't have to look at them forever. You can. And some people find that their decks are too intensive. There are instructions that come, and then you can always email him. He's pretty accessible, and he's available. And
what do you do with them? Do you use them like a regular, like do you just
like you do a like a meditation with your eyes open? You just look at them.
You pick your need, whatever it says. It says like spine enhancer. And when you first get the deck, you put
you don't just, like when we're doing like oracle cards, you just kind of pull and see what comes out. You go in, you look for like what you're having problems or issues with.
Yes, you do one at a time. They don't work in succession, like pick 3 and look at all of them. It's just one at a time. And so you pick the one that resonates you, and it could be that you don't know which one to pick and one will fall, and that you could do it that way. It's an intuitive thing. But definitely his instructions were put your left hand over your card of choice, or when you first get the deck, put your left hand over it, because it's getting matched up to your vibe. It's like tarot cards, like they are alive. So you're having a relationship with them. They're your cards. And you'll pick one and you look at it for 60 seconds, if you can manage that long, because it might be too intense for you. So you just do one. I really just got them about 3 days ago. So I have looked at them a couple of times. Like today would be a day I'll look
And
at them
what will
again.
they do for you? They help you. They help you.
Well,
They're healing codes.
yeah, they're healing codes. They are sacred geometry. They're considered new technology in terms of healing or healing and helping your situation get better. There is a disclaimer that he's not claiming to be a physician. He's not going to claim to heal you, which most people do.
What was his
do
name
that.
again?
Brad Johnson.
I
And he's from-
actually used to watch him a long time, like a few years ago when he first started channeling the Drones. And then I just stopped watching channelers for a while and I just never went back to him.
Well, you know, we all have tools in our toolbox. Like I'm going actually back to Louise Hay because I wanted to share some, you know, doing affirmation and how to do them, to leave you with that, which again, you probably, some of you either know or you're doing
No,
this,
those
and
are
that's
interesting.
great.
I'm glad you brought those out because I like those cards.
You can see free ones, and you can use the free ones that he has just on your laptop or your phone. You don't have to download them if you don't want to, but there are 11 free that don't come with any of the decks. And he just did a mind deck, and I'm thinking, oh, that's probably the one I need for my mind. Yeah. The mind is what got the things that I'm downloading in the way. Yeah, that's what it is. But I got these, and they really are appealing, and I do see them change. They morph. They shift around, so it's pretty cool. But again, there's 11 that they're on a site that you can get, and there's also, I listed Bashar, who is Daryl Anka, he's been an international channeler for over 38 years, and he had an experience with spaceships it was like almost 40 years ago, and he didn't have any intention of seeing space people. He was in special effects in Hollywood. And so he saw these spaceships, and a person was with him. They saw them too. This was in California. So it led him down a road of, you know, going to take a class and reading about, and ultimately he channeled this space traveler named Bashar. So they have also some interesting Syrian energy work, and some things that are harder to find that are older material, which I don't know how I found them. I found them and then I misplaced them again, but I pretty much, there's a cool song that was written on his behalf over some sacred geometry type circles that lead you into self-awareness, self-healing. It's Syrian technology. But in getting back to one of the people I listed, like Louise Hay, she was also someone, she was a model. She married well. She ultimately was in California, New York, back in California. She started helping people in ministries, and she noticed a correlation between people's problems and what they complained about and where things settled in their body. And so you may know she has a famous book, You Can Heal Your Life. Now she's died a couple of years ago, so she's no longer on the planet, but you can still go to YouTube. And I like hearing the material in her own voice, as opposed to other people who sometimes interpret her work and say the affirmations. You can still hear affirmations and lectures in her voice, and even movies. And she was a pioneer in the affirmation, in the thoughts create your, she's not the first one, but she basically broke ground with showing, and Edgar Casey was there too, but she again was saying certain frequencies in the body, this becomes cancer, this becomes,
I used to listen to her back in the day.
Yeah.
And she was the one that would bring me back whenever I went down, kind of like got myself into feeling sorry for myself after a while. And then I would listen to her again, and then I'd come back.
what I like
see,
about her, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, what people when people want to do, when they want to manifest things, they don't realize what energy really propels it to create it is the emotion. It's, you know, Jesus said the power of a mustard seed can move mountains. When you have that faith, what is faith? It's an emotion. So your emotion, you have to feel it, you have to love it, you have to know that you deserve it, and see yourself doing it or having it. and that's when it comes. That's what moves it. And it's people think it's a thought, but it's not a thought. It's what's behind the thought.
And
So
also, in order to release a feeling, release an emotion, you have to feel it too, right, Nora? No, that's one thing Nora has taught me this year.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is in order to actually release these old patterns that keep coming up and up and
Yeah,
up, you have to feel it. You have to feel that before you can release it. It's all about
totally agree.
there's a statistic that's been proven through devices. So the brain has to be partnered with the heart. The brain is like this big receiving of information. And we download information, but usually we do the thing that's most easiest for us in a certain pattern. When we're downloading and getting thoughts and partnered with the heart is stronger electromagnetically and magnetically than the brain. And with the heart, which is the feelings center, the emotion, you have that powered with your thought. So when the emotions are powered in that feeling in the body or through your word, that's how the manifestation comes in. So you are like a magnet. And this has been proven. It's been proven if you watch for fun, not only what the bleep do we know, but if you want to ever take a look at Greg Braden's 2007 lecture from Milan, it is was called The Divine Matrix, but now they may have changed it to The Law of Attraction Unveiled. It is a 4-hour lecture and you can break it up in parts. There's so much information. It talks a little bit today exactly what I mentioned about different experiments and energy and who was who. And then he brings in the power of the word and brings in different esoteric teachings. As a matter of fact, he does bring up the Bible and certain passages that were taken out of the Bible as to keep the people, this is my words, stupid, because they were missing that the prayer has to be partnered with the feeling and act as if you have it. And that's what's usually missing. I could be wrong, but my observation when I've gone to different places to pray, when I was doing that a lot, is that people are actually missing that the continuity of asking and believing, not asking out of desperation and dire, crying your brains out, but asking from that place of, I know in your name it can happen, and I feel it in my bones, and I'm going to let this go because you know best. And holding to that and not talking against it. That's the thing. We talk against our power. We don't mean to. We feel like, oh, I've got to tell you this issue. Oh, I've got to tell you this problem. Well, you're not trusting the faith, certainty, the unseen. That works on our behalf, but you've got to be trusting, allowing to let it come in. And so this was the whole idea of introducing everyday magic and how to use it so that we could be remembering the best part of ourselves, which is that we are divine beings experiencing life in this human experience. We are at the best time on the planet, whatever our conditions are going, our health, our money, our families, our friends, whatever is happening in our world, you are power and you exponentially can make better and better happen. And you are not resigned to just what is. Even now is gone. Even now is gone. The power is in the now, bringing in the future. The future hasn't been created yet. So a lot of us are sitting, hoping only for the best, wishing for the best, wanting to know consciously, raising our hearts to the best. And then I just wanted to also share about how, so blue index cards, if you want. When you go to master, all these people that charge, I don't know, $5,000 for workshops. Part of some of what they'll teach you, I know this through a coach I had, so I didn't go myself to this, but part of what they'll teach you is to put down your decrees, your affirmations on blue paper, blue index cards, and they'll tell you to write in blue pen. And part of that is because of what it represents in our psychology, which has to do with religion and spirituality and the frequency of how blue is uplifting and godly and pure and powerful. So you could have white index cards. That's fine. I'm not saying don't do this at all or don't write anything. Huh?
I got blue.
Yeah, blue.
I have pink ones too. Blue, pink, and yellow.
Well, I'm just repeating what was told to me about going to these $5,000, $10,000 workshops of what these master coaches suggest and how they found difference in their business through affirmation, through decreeing, through invocation, but they use
Blue
blue.
pen and blue paper.
Yeah, and if you don't trust what I'm saying, just Google the power of blue or power of
I just
whatever.
never knew
I
about
think
that.
Tony Robbins.
Right.
Tony,
And then
Tony-
another thing too that helps bring it along too is gratitude. Having
Thank you.
gratitude for what you already have.
Thank
And that
you.
helps with it.
I strongly suggest before you get out of bed, and even when you go to bed, think of at least 3 things you're grateful for. And honestly, I'll say, thank you for my blankets. Thank you for my pillow. Thank you for my cats. Thank you for the warm shower. I mean, if you can't come up with anything else because things are pretty crappy going on, come up with, come up with, oh, I got warm socks. It matters because that's what I'm going to brush my teeth today. There are people who are not washed up today because they're living under a bridge. Because, because on our planet, there isn't enough. There's plenty. It's just distribution, kindness, and love we don't have down. And Louise Hay in the 80s, 90s, when AIDS was the big thing, people were worried about how you got it. She was saying, we don't have this for no reason. We have it because there's a lack of love on the planet. And a part of her intuition on that was absolutely correct, because the powers that were wanting to rule and harm got this.
She just added on our ending note, because this is what we're creating here. We're creating the new world, the new energy, and being able to make the abundance be equally distributed so that no one goes without anything. That's what we're doing. We're doing it with love and compassion.
So I'll just end with, I am divinely protected and guided, and my way is made smooth and clear.
Oh, yeah. And we just ended on that note. And
thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and doing this today. That was really enjoyable. And I hope that you'll come back in the future, and maybe we'll do part 2 of Everyday Magic.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I appreciate it. Much love. Thank you. Thank you.